Hi, it's Monday morning. I've got the Ring camera directly in front of my face. Okay, move over just a little bit, I guess, there. Camera guy. So I'm working on this Pogo thing. Plane upside down. Yeah, there. The vertical takeoff and landing. Vertical takeoff. Got the ladder, which is this thing here, which is now painted red. And the furniture caster wheels that are going to be painted today. I'm going to be painting those because why not? Whoever did this on the box, whoever painted this did a really good job. I have to say that whoever paints the models that they show on the box tops they're really good at it, much better than I will ever be or ever had been. Actually, I'm better now than I ever had been because I would never really painted models that much other than Fink models, but I used a much bigger brush. They were larger surfaces. I'm muttering to myself about stuff that is irrelevant to today's stream. So what I'll be working on today is I'm going to be painting the casters. There'll be 3 different colors. There'll be duraluminum, which is sort of a dark aluminum for the caster, the things that hold the wheels, and then chrome for these bits because they're meant to retract, and that's always very shiny, metallic kind of chrome thing. There's this ring here, which is like a stop. It stops it from falling into the plane. I'll probably paint that the duraluminum color too. So what I'll be doing is I'll be painting the darker aluminum on this, and then I'll be painting the shiny chromy color on the parts that are they're not really even round. They weren't molded round, which is weird. And then I'll paint the tires. Those tires will be flat black. And when I paint the tires, I'll also be painting the tiny little bottoms of the ladder, because the ladder would have had little rubber feet on it on the bottom to keep it from sliding when someone was climbing it up, trying to climb into the plane, which was extremely difficult to do. So as one thing as I'd mentioned earlier is that I tried to pick these as well as I could by getting rid of the molding seams. And I did mention that sometimes after they're painted, even if I look at them with the head magnifiers, which I did, sometimes after they're painted, then the flaws are visible that weren't before they were painted. And I was just looking at a few of these before the stream started, and I need to do a little bit of filing down before I paint them, because they're just not well done in terms of fixing all the flaws. Not well done in that there are a bunch of flaws to be fixed to begin with. That's the way it is. They're not round. They are ovoid. I'm just going to keep them in here while I paint them. This part here, this bit back here is never going to show. It's buried deep in the plane. They slide back and forth for unknown reasons. So that's what I'll be doing today. And then I'm going to paint. I want the paint to dry on these before I assemble the wings, because they go into the tips of the wings like that. So maybe I'll do a little bit more wing prep, but I'm going to work on the counter-rotating helicopter props that go on the top of the plane, and get all these parts out and test fit them. I'm really not sure how they fit. So, I really don't know how they fit. So I'm going to give it a try. No, yeah, sorry. I was just reading the instructions. So I'll be doing that. I don't know what I'm going to mutter on about today while I'm painting. I was talking about telephones on Friday. That was kind of fun, remembering how they changed over time and how long distance, operator assisted hugely expensive calls, long distance, if it was any distance at all. And now we have free video chats anywhere in the world. Pretty amazing. Yep. And I talked a little bit about how even science fiction writers, for books, movies, and later on TV, just didn't anticipate the explosion in communication. And whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, one cannot dispute the fact that there was just a whole lot more than there ever had been in terms of quantity. Well, I'm not going to paint the little feet of the ladder black until I paint the wheels black. And I'm not going to paint those black until I painted the other stuff. But I'm not going to paint the other stuff until I check them over one more time to make sure that they're not seriously flawed before I start putting metallic paint on them. Because after the metallic paint is on, then any flaw will definitely be obvious. So I'm just going to pull these out. And the parts that are most problematic are this raised ring here, right there. Because it's not round, it's kind of pointy, and it looks like it's got a ridge on it. I'm just going to do a little extra sanding on those to try to make it look rounder. I'm just using 1,000 grit sandpaper. I don't want to take a lot off. The parts just look bad. It looks like I missed this when I did it the first time. Maybe, it's almost like I had them sitting in a pile and I just misplaced it and then didn't sand it down. I don't know why I'm saying sand it down. That's really pretty redundant, isn't it? I'm just sanding it. And of course it's going down, right? You don't sand things up. You don't sand it and raise the surface. Saying you're sanding something down is a redundancy. Not using my head magnifiers on this. I'm just checking them with what's left of my eyeballs here. Yeah, it looks like there's a seam there. Weird. Yeah, but all these little rings seem to have kept their ridges, even though I know I filed and sanded them. I think I used up all my talk about telephones on Friday, so I've talked about televisions too and how those changed over time, especially the incredible change. I mean, the televisions were in. I think the first ones were in the 1920s, even might have been the early, sometime in the 30s, because I think televised television actually happened in the 30s. The picture tubes, because they were tubes then. Everything was tubes. And I've talked about the destruction of the tube industry. Ole, hi. Oh no. Everybody's sick. You too? I know you were sick a while ago. Yeah. So I don't know. I know you were really quite sick, a couple of weeks ago, but I hope you're better. Well, I finished the Enterprise Bridge, and then I finished the Lotus Ford, which is in a box. It's buried now. I can't really get to it anymore. I boxed it up last week, but it came out okay. The decal set. Okay, and if everybody's sick, there's probably a lot of getting. Like everybody wants something different at different times. Well, at least you'll get your steps in, I guess. I was going to build an X-15 because I have this 1/48 scale model of an X-15. I really like that plane. I was amazed by it when I was growing up. But kind of like what happened when I was going to build the Aurora, the sci-fi plane, the Delta Wing hypersonic plane that was rumored to exist but probably didn't. And I found out that the model kit I had was selling for $95 on eBay, and I decided not to do that, and I did the Enterprise again instead. Well, I was going to build the X-15, and I made the mistake of checking eBay, to see if I was about to destroy a lot of potential value, like whether the model was worth a lot or not. And unfortunately, it turned out that it is. So the model kit that I have, there's one on eBay mine isn't shrink wrap yet, but the one on eBay was selling for like $140. And so it was, oh no, why did I buy these models cheap, and why am I looking them up later to see if they're more valuable? But I guess that's okay, because when I stop building these, because I can't anymore, when I'm no longer able to keep going, some of these might have enough value so that the kids can sell them and maybe make enough money to go out for dinner once or twice. So instead of building the X-15, Alexis, our DM, said, well, what I'd really like you to build is this, because it's such a bizarre plane. The Navy had one, and the Museum of the Air Force in Dayton actually has one of these. One of these still exists. It was a vertical takeoff attempt. And, it was just, it's just a really bizarre plane. It looks like a regular plane here, okay? But the vertical stabilizer, there's one on the other side too. So there's 4 of them. There's the 2 wings and a huge vertical and vertical up and down stabilizer. So that when it's sitting down, you can see the wheel here. When it's sitting on the ground, it's got 4 points of support. And it did actually work. You know, they get these counter rotating props, they're turbo props. There's a turbine engine buried back here with a big long drive shaft that goes up through the plane and does these big counter rotating propellers. And it actually did take off. Taking off wasn't so bad. I mean, it did, and they were able to transition into horizontal flight, not well. Yeah, it is. It was, that's when they started making all those bizarre planes, right? It did transition into vertical flight, and I think the problem was landing, because the pilot, you know, is sitting like this, and you can't, except for maybe a mirror or something, can't see where you're landing, and it has to come down this way because, you know, it has this gigantic vertical fin on the bottom. And so it can't land horizontally. It has to land vertically as well. And so it just was horrible in terms of, you know, actually working like a plane, being able to take off and land. The other thing, and you can see this, is that, oh no, I have to go watch that. I've been kind of out of touch with things. You got the blimp done. Nice. I'm going to definitely see that. Getting in and out of this was incredibly dangerous. There was this useless ladder. Okay. And I think this is military back in the 50s, right? So these pilots are like 22 years old or something. And it's like, oh, I'll just climb up and in. So they didn't make a nice ladder with a little tube around it for safety or anything. No, it was just this welded metal tubes that they made into a ladder with a little platform on the top. So you have to climb 20 feet, okay, and then stand here and then somehow swing yourself around, because you can't put the ladder behind the canopy because the vertical stabilizer's away, right? So you have to somehow swing yourself around and up, holding on to like a little grab bar up here, and somehow step actually on the back of the canopy and onto the seat, and then somehow lower yourself into it. So it's oh no, oh no, what a huge amount of work. 4 projects, and then okay, so you voiced over it. Okay, well then I'm sure that the quality of the video probably is really good, since you had to put so much extra work into it. So yeah, I'm building this because this apparently this isn't valuable. It's only worth about, you know, like the price of back model kits now are like $20. Although this one was, all these model kits are really quite old because I bought them a minimum of 15 years ago. So I think this one is, what's the copyright date on this? I thought there was one somewhere. 2007. Yeah, so this model is only like 17 or 18 years old. Oh, of course. So there's, yeah, that's almost worse than not having it at all, right? That you think it's going along, going along, going along, all of a sudden then it isn't. Well, I guess I'm going to do some painting. The first part I'm going to paint without head magnifiers because I'm going to be painting the things that hold the wheels here, and this little circle thing, this stop, I'll call it the raised ridge stop, duraluminum, dark aluminum, and then the wheels and the rest of this get painted another color, and it'll just be painted over. So I can go over the lines a little bit the first time around, but then I have to be really careful, especially with the black paint. You know, I don't know. There's no way I'm going to be able to paint it as well as the people who painted these. Whoever painted these casters for the cover here. I mean, just the lines, the incredibly precise lines between one color and the other. No matter how I work at it, I can't do that. Yeah. So on our D&D show, we always do a warm up just to test to make sure that happens, and we have sometimes, several times reminded Lexi to push the record button before we get started. Yeah, and it's always the take that's perfect that didn't get recorded. If it's the one that's messed up, okay, we just have to start over again. You never forget to hit the button then. Well, that was good. I'm knocking stuff around already. Yeah, so we do our pre-show improv warm-ups just to test everything. And I think sometimes, we move right into the recording after that. I think she just keeps it recording and then edits out all the excess between one thing and the other. I don't know. I don't contribute that much. I show up and I play my character, I try to stay in character and move the plot along and that kind of thing. But to be honest, a long time ago, I used to have all sorts of skills, plumbing, electrical, painting, house maintenance stuff. Computers, I used to, when computers were simple and did what you told them to do and didn't do anything other than what you told them to do. I used to be good at that too, but now I'm mostly good at just staying out of the way. I joke about that, but it's not really a joke. Is that sometimes my most important skill is just staying out of the way. I think one drop will be enough. And it's splat. Oh, yeah. Huh. I did a good job of not spattering on me. Surprisingly okay. So I've been mentioning on this stream, I'm going to be gone. I'm leaving on a trip again. My wife keeps wanting to travel. So we're going on a trip on Friday. So I'll be away from the stream. I won't be streaming Friday, and then I'll be away until the 17th, a week from Monday. So I'll not be streaming all next week. So no stream on Friday, no stream all next week, and then I'll be back a week from Monday. Just to let everybody know that will be happening. and I'll mention it again later on in the stream today if I remember to say it, so that people know that I haven't given up. Nothing bad has happened. It's just that you know, gotta keep going places, I guess. So I hope the family isn't terribly sick. I mean, they're not dangerously ill, are they? Because the flu can be pretty bad. I'm gonna be painting at minimal speed here today, I think. Yeah, that color will be okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't too dark to keep stirring it up. Yeah, yeah. The little metal bits are separating from the solvent. So yeah, it was kind of, I have to say, it was actually kind of disappointing to go on eBay and see that the X15 model that I was going to build turns out to be a relatively rare and expensive model. And I have to make a decision at some point, whether to just leave them for an estate sale, or an auction or something, when I just know that I'll never get around to building them, or selling them on eBay just to cash in, or whether to cut into the cellophane, the shrink wrap, and destroy the value of the model. I did that with the Lotus Ford. That was turned out to be like $50 on the resale market, and just cut into the shrink wrap, and you go, there it goes. Poof! I hope this turns out okay. So it's becoming more and more that the criteria for which model gets built next is based on the resale market more than anything. I know he didn't pay that much for these things originally. There's no way I would have paid that much. Even if it was, uninflated dollars. Okay. Well, I'm glad she's recovering. I was asking you, hoping that they were not really seriously ill, because I know the flu can be pretty devastating. There was really okay. Well, as I put the metallic paint on, and I talked about this before, the sometimes it's white plastic, white on white. It's really hard to see the flaws in it. You kind of sand at it and hope for the best. But the seam right here, is showing really badly. Actually, here too. It looks like the two parts of the mold just didn't match up. So this one, I'm going to go back over this, and then this particular one, and resand that. It's just this isn't going to be an attempt to do a record-breaking model in terms of quality here, but that's just so obvious it needs to be fixed. This one too. And I thought I was being especially careful on those bits right in the back here. So I want to finish painting it because the metallic paint brings out the flaws. And then after the paint dries, I'm going to sand it down a little bit and give it a little dip of paint again. Let it dry, and then, this will just slow the process down. Yeah. Metallics and glossies, both of those paints just require an absolutely perfect surface. And just any flaw, like a little bump, a seam, a molding seam that didn't get sanded out, like that little bit there. Piece of dust, even anything, it just jumps right out. And sometimes I don't know if it is for you, but for me, it's really hard to see those flaws, even with the primer, because the primer is flat, and that will show things sometimes better than not painted, but that I'm probably being silly about this. It's on the bottom, it's on the bottom where it's not going to show very much, but just seeing it, just like, ugh, I could do better. Did I lose my little plastic cover for the brush? There's only so many places it could be. There it is. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that to dry enough to fix and repaint, I'm going to get the propeller parts out. Do that. Oh, these are really bad. But look at all the excess, and it's not even really thin. Just big bits of plastic all around the edges. I would say that was just like exceptionally badly done. Just really poorly done. Oh, this is just going to take a lot of. Oh, that's really not good. So these weren't even attached to the sprue. They were just floating around in the box. So I'm not sure what happened, but here it isn't even that it's broken off, but it's badly molded. There's this raised bit here that needs to be sanded down, but then behind it is an indentation, a little divot. And unless that's some sort of an alignment pin, I don't think it is, but unless it is, what that is it's a thing that's going to have to be filled in. I mean, the propeller is going to be painted flat black, which is good. Okay, flat instead of glossy. But still, the whole edge here is just all ragged. And they go like this, and they counter rotate like that. And the counter rotation is to eliminate the torque effects of the rotation. Okay. Because if it spins in one direction, the plane wants to spin in the other direction. But if they counter rotate, they counteract each other. And the plane is supposed to stay stable. That may or may not be the case. So inside are these little gears that's supposed to run on a shaft. Take the parts off. And this is going to take, what do they say, a month of Sundays? Is that one of the phrases? Just to clean this up so that it looks presentable. Wow. Really, really, really messy. The nose cone is just as bad. Well, it's certainly going to use the time, between while I'm waiting for the paint to dry enough to fix the little flaw in the plastic and retouch it. So that paint dries quickly enough that after I saw these off, paper towel down. I don't want to get dust all over this. The paint should be dry enough after I cut these off that I can get on with it. Or else I'll just get impatient and mess it up. That can happen too. This is the highly not detailed pilot seat. And I think this little protuberance down here, okay, that's either a molding flaw or a grab bar. It's hard to tell which. What I can say is if you look at this, is that the two halves did not line up when they molded this. Okay, the two halves of the seat did not line up. This side, if you're looking at it from this direction, this side is lower. Thanks for dropping in. I hope you have a good dinner, and I hope everybody recovers quickly. I appreciate it, and I'll see you on the 17th when I get back from the trip. Making this model, even the quality, even B, not even B plus, but just even B is going to be a challenge. Just because of the poor quality. It's really not well built, not well molded. I complain about that a lot because the injection molding is really the Savoia, which is the newest of the models that I've ever built, probably had the best quality of the injection molding. The main issue there were the molding circles that I complain about all the time. And if they're raised circles, that's just fine. I can sand them down. They disappear. If they're recessed circles and they're in a place where it's visible, it's not good at all. because then they have to be filled in and sanded and feathered in, and it never works perfectly. It's never really worked perfectly. Now just leave these bits on here. This is the Pytot 2 that tells you how fast you're going. I don't know what that is. It's like an extra one. This is the seat that is amazingly badly made. Wow. I mean, the two parts, the two halves of the mold, they seriously did not line up. I'd say that's a 64th of an inch. I mean, probably a third of a millimeter of offset between the two sides. That's going to require a lot of sanding, even though a lot of it doesn't show, but parts of it do, like up here. Really bad. Really, really bad. Poorly done, Lindbergh. Okay. I am going to take the time now. This fits on there. Like a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And I had to do it 3 times over. Yeah, this needs to be sanded down. And then repainted. What you say? You can't file down little file marks, little flaws in the molding without talking. And apparently that's true. I can't. Apparently I can't do that today. God, what's up with that? Okay, let me just dust this off a little bit. The paint is still sitting here. I just need to stir it up a little bit. All the little metal bits have settled in the center there. Now it's stirred up. Here I am not putting anything away. Still not perfect. I don't know what's going on with these parts, but they're better. I mean, they'll look okay. especially if I follow the advice I keep giving to myself, which is when someone comes to view the model, stay at least 18 inches away and keep the lighting indirect and dim, and everything looks way better then. This looks like it's going to be another one of those episodes, which is almost everyone, actually, almost every episode, in which I get relatively, how do I put it, got very little done, but took a long time to do it. It's definitely shaping up to be getting very little done, but taking a long time to do it day. Okay, this is a retaining thing of some sort, and it's got big molding circles on it, gigantic ones that are indented, but this part doesn't show. It's internal. So I just need to make sure it fits. Very thin walls on that. There's no reason why these walls should be that thin. This goes on the end of this, like this, and it's supposed to turn freely. And it does. Yay. I have this part in my hand. I might as well do this next. So it doesn't go all the way through. You can see it stops, but it's not clear, how far it's supposed to go. So this bit here, hopefully it's not too short, but it very well might be too long. And so the test fitting of the parts is going to be very important to make sure that, they fit, fit. Okay, that is definitely not supposed to be there. This is the internal gearing that somehow miraculously is supposed to make, when you turn one of the propellers, the other one turns in the opposite direction. So if you turn one counterclockwise, the other one's supposed to go clockwise, and vice versa. I don't know why I said it that way. That was a dumb thing to do, but there it is. This is, and vice versa. Why did I say vice versa? Trying to be cute, I guess. And nothing about this stream is cute. On camera, though, that's pretty good. Thank you, camera guy, for keeping things on camera. Even though, So yeah, the internal structure for this is kind of fascinating. I'm going to actually test it before I start manipulating, before I start trying to clean up the propellers themselves. Because I'm really curious about how this is supposed to work. These gears, there's no teeth on the insides of the propellers. There's just these little raised nubbins, little raised dome-like structures. Just none of it looks like it's going to work, but find out. I have looked into a power sander thing. It's just it's like an electric toothbrush, kind of. that vibrates on the end, and the vibration on this tiny little sanding pad, little bitty like half-inch sanding pad, is supposed to sand things quickly and accurately. And invest in one. It's not a lot of money, but it might be another one of those tools that I'm not capable of using. That would just end up, going into electronic recycling. I've been doing okay with hand sanding, so I'll probably keep that up, even though it's really time consuming, very slow. But then that's not really a problem either, because I got this stream running about 3 hours, almost 3 hours every other day, and there has to be something to fill the time. So why not sanding? That's something to fill the time. Okay, let me get these. Got these parts now. Like the gears go teeth in, pinion gears onto the crossbar. Gears must turn freely, and they do. Look at that. They're turning. Thought I cleaned this up, but I didn't. To do this over a box because it end up dropping stuff. Slide propeller shaft with gears into rear prop hub unit 3. That's the bigger one. There. So you can see these little bumps along here. The gear teeth are supposed to turn on those. Put front hub, that's this one, onto the shaft. The gears are supposed to mesh. I can say with a great deal of certainty that it sort of works. It sort of works. As I turn this, the other one turns in the opposite direction. It's not very smooth because of the way the gears are made, but it actually does work. And this is the way the propeller would turn. Huh. Absolutely weird and wild. The thing is, then this is supposed to go on there, and it's supposed to hold the propeller in place. But you can see, I was kind of concerned about that. It just doesn't. So I don't know. They want it. Okay. Now I see how the issue is. It's supposed to go on like this. That doesn't go on at all. So that's a problem. So it's supposed to go on. So the flat end, it's probably just as well that it's tight. The flat end is against it. And now it's stuck. Good. Okay, well, it kind of goes on. It needs to be cemented on. The front one is down here somewhere. Oh, I can actually find it. That's good. Okay, so here's the issue with this. This is the front one, which goes on here. This goes on like this. Okay, and this is supposed to go on with the flat end. You can see it here on the instructions with the flat end against this. Okay, so the flat end is supposed to go against that, but the flat end is not going against that because the hole is sealed. Nice, huh? So I need to drill that out. It's probably not very thick, but still, it's still a problem. That keeps clicking like that. There aren't any flaws on here, which is weird. This piece is molded, and there are really no visible seam lines on it. It's very, very odd. The inside of this, there must just be a little catch on it somewhere. If I rotate it, there's just a click, like right there, which means that there's a bump bumping into a bump, which is weird because I don't feel a bump on this, and I don't see one on here. Well, this is a thing. This is supposed to have a hole that goes all the way through it because this is supposed to go onto the shaft this way. And it can't, see? Can't go through. There's always something. After I drill this hole out, I'm going to put these parts in the box. So they're big enough. After I drill that out, I'm going to go back to painting. I have these little twist drills. They're all real tiny. Yeah, that one's smaller than the hole. That's fine. This one might be just right. Some of them are really, really itty-bitty. Itty-bitty little bitties. And they need to be tiny because they do tiny things. Oh, this one's the best one. Turn it by hand here. There's a lot of plastic there, really. should I be doing this? But the answer obviously is yes, it must be done because this part will not slide. I'm looking at the instructions like over and over and over again, and it's very clear that the big part goes against the goes against this, like that. Could go like that, but in either case, it doesn't. With that hole not being opened. Well, I guess, in some ways, this is all easier than the early days of modeling where you would get some poorly drawn plans. I mean, just kind of roughly drawn outlines of wing spars and fuselage bits and some chunks of balsa wood in a box. When you were told, make these chunks of balsa wood to look like the drawings and then make that look like an airplane. And I actually have some kits like that. They reproduced one. I almost pulled it out to work on it. So the Wright Flyer, which is a balsa and tissue model, which makes sense because that's pretty much what the Wright Flyer was. It was just pieces of wood with fabric on it. And open the box, and instead of having drawings that you then put onto the balsa wood, they drew it on the balsa wood. I guess that's a thing, but the lines are a 1/16 of an inch wide. I mean, they're really big lines, and they don't tell you, do you cut on the inside of the lines? Do you cut on the outside of the lines? Do you cut down the center of the lines? Do you cut on the outside of the lines and then sand them down so that they fit? It just wasn't really clear how that was supposed to work. Maybe I should try that. Maybe I should try to do that. That would be a really different kind of thing to build instead of one of these plastic models. It was supposed to go on here like that. Yeah, now it does. Okay. So that if it goes in here like this, and the retaining ring goes on, and you can push it down, and it holds the part in place. So put cement on it after it's on the shaft. And the way I'm going to cement this is I'll probably use model cement, is push it down in place and then just put the cement around it. This doesn't turn, the propeller turns on the shaft, right? But that has to be uptight against it. And I don't want the cement to get onto the part that turns. But they talk about, one of the books that I read about modeling said, there's this tiny little gaps there, right? So you put the cement on it and through capillary action, and it actually works. The cement just sort of sucks in and seeps into the little gap between the two parts, and doesn't seep in too far. So this one goes like this, and this one goes over like that. And the same thing, you can put the cement after this is in place, put the cement on it rather than cementing it in the process of going on. So it goes on tight like that, and then can put the cement around it there. And then there's no danger of getting it on the inside of this or on the shaft where this is supposed to turn freely. This is catching too. So there's pretty clearly something on this that isn't round. I can't feel what it is. There's a bump on it. You don't want to sand it down too much because then things won't. I mean, it's one thing to have them turn; it's another thing to have them flop around. I think there it is. Just a tiny bit of molding seam. This is like 1000 grit sandpaper. It's not taking very much off, but it might be enough just to polish this and get rid of that, whatever that tiny bump is. Well, I'll play around with this again some other time. There'll be plenty of time to play around with it, but these need a lot of cleaning up. But first, I can go back to painting. But first, I should put things away a little bit and clean them up so that I can not be smashing into them and dropping them and stuff. Get the sandpaper out later. Okay, so the dark aluminum, for the brackets and stuff that's pretty dark. I'm wondering if that's too dark. Yeah, I guess it'll be okay. And then I'm going to paint the shaft of the landing gear, such as it is, chrome. Use my head magnifiers for this. I want to be able to see what I'm doing. There's actually boundaries between two colors that need to be pretty precise. As I'm painting these, I need to remind myself that these are upside down and that the boundaries that are really important are actually all of them. Well, I'll do my best. I'm going to do my best. Just like Jack Skellington did. I just finished watching that, because of Halloween, right? So what? So buttons. So the saying goes, so what? So buttons. What? He said, so what? So buttons. The retort is, be modern, use zippers. Let's just say that if one was in middle school in the early 1960s, that would have been considered to be funny or clever. Not so much now, but oh well. You got to experience it. It's primed and it's not adhering very well. It's going to take 2 coats. It's not covering. I'm going to have to just plan on doing this twice. Acting like this is raw plastic and not primed. And it's not covering over the darker color. I'm being disturbingly baffled by this. It's not a big deal, having to do it twice. Other than that, it just takes more time to do it twice than doing it once. It's just kind of disappointing. But it is what it is. And if it has to be done twice, then it will be done twice. You're probably asking yourself, hey, self, since this guy can't use an airbrush, is he going to paint the fuselage of this model? The answer is the cheat way, which is spray cans. And I got family member went to the hobby store, picked up the paint, and I have spray can paint of aluminum, glossy aluminum, and also flat black for some of the detail. But the glossy aluminum is the main color, and that is going to get sprayed on the fuselage once it is fully assembled and masked and prepped. So yeah, I need to do this chrome, a second coat of the chrome. I'm doing that sometime a little bit later here while I'm waiting for this to dry before I put the second coat of chrome on. I will go back to complaining about the quality of the model as I prep the propeller parts. Which needlessly squeezed out an extra drop of this paint, giving me, 10 times more than I need. guessing, and I hope this is the case, that after this dries, that the second coat will cover better. This doesn't really want to stick to the plastic, which is very odd, because the duraluminum, the darker color, worked really well. I haven't used this chrome very much, just a couple of times on the Lotus Ford, like on the roll bar. Well, if this is on camera. If it isn't, well, I'm sorry. I apologize. It just means that, once again, I have a failure of my director and camera person. Well, that was good. I hadn't done that yet. I just stuck my finger in the paint. Don't try to fix it now. Fix it with the second coat. I don't need to go all the way up to here because this part that's on the clip is invisible when assembled. It was buried inside the wingtips of the plane, even when fully extended, which is weird. The metallic paint not adhering, even with the primer, means I have to be, when I paint the fuselage, I'm going to have to be very sure that the primer has adequately covered the surface, because if the spray paint behaves at all like this, it's not going to work very well. Okay, I need to let this dry. Yeah, it definitely needs a second coat. It's really scabby looking. It might have been the case when I painted the roll bar too. I might have found that this chrome paint just doesn't cover that well. Really remember. But it will dry eventually, and then I'll come back to it and put a second coat on. But while I'm waiting for that, yeah, I'll use this messed up one. I'm going to go back to these bits and do my best to make them look presentable. This is where the sprues were attached. This is just excess plastic that's flopping around for no reason at all. Can't even get. So there's so much of it that I'm going to file it first and then sand it with 400 grit sandpaper, and then sand the whole thing with 1000 grit sandpaper. It will soften the shininess of the original plastic, but I want this whole thing to have a consistent surface texture. So any kind of sanding anywhere, like here, it has to be sanded where the sprue is attached. Okay, changes the surface texture from the original shininess, and so I found that unless I sand the entire piece, there's just a spot there that even can't see it or feel it until it's painted, and then it's obvious. So that's a tip I can pass along, which anybody who knows modeling already knows, but if you don't, like I don't, I just learn along, by doing, kind of. Or in many cases, I learn by failing. Yeah. If you're going to be painting it, especially if it's going to be glossy, the surface, any variation in the surface texture becomes very, very obvious. And so if something has to be sanded, no matter how much you polish it with 3000 grit sandpaper or whatever, you're still going to see a variation. And so sand the entire piece. I'm thinking about building a car next. I haven't done a car model since, geez. Okay, I built a car model in like 6th grade, maybe 7th grade, which was almost do the arithmetic, was 1964. Yeah, it must have been then, because it was a GTO. It was a model of the car that had just come out. I think they first started coming out in 63. This was a 64 GTO, which I thought was just an amazing vehicle. It actually was. And I did a pretty good job of it. I painted it. I remember it was one of the very first things I ever painted. I painted it this sort of lemon chiffon yellow, the like yellow custard color. That was actually a real color of the car. It was very pretty. And then the next time I built a car was much later. I was in college, I think, and I actually have another. I have the model that I built. Now it's not the same one. Okay, it's a 1957 Corvette, very large scale. It's got all cool features like lighting headlights and carpeted interior. I tried to build that and kind of failed. Couldn't get the parts to work together. But I acquired that model again. I might give it a try. But this, if I do build a car model, which would be like this, as I'm recounting the third time I ever built a car, it's a 1965 GT 350, which was a much prettier car, even though not as powerful as the later GT 500. This was made with a up-tuned 289 engine in it, but it was, the lines on the car were just gorgeous. When the 500 came out, it was like muscle cars are starting as opposed to sports cars, and so it was more just angular and larger where it didn't need to be larger. So the model kit is white with a blue stripe. That is, it's molded in white, and it comes with a blue decal stripe. But the car really looks good when the colors are reversed. It looks best blue with a white stripe. That's pretty easy to do. One just needs to paint it white, paint where the stripe is, paint it with glossy white. And like I did with the Savoia, okay, it's just tape. And the Lotus Ford, when I painted the yellow stripe on it, is to paint it all yellow, in this case, paint it all white, and then tape over where the stripe is going to be, and then paint over that with the blue. And that's the technique I'm going to use for that. And it will turn out okay then. I mean, it'll be blue with a white stripe. The only downside is that along the baseboard, down under the door, okay, under the door on the car, right along the bottom, is another stripe that says GT350 on it. And I can paint it white, but I won't have the GT350 lettering because it's white on blue, and the stripe has to be white. And if the letters are white, then they won't show up. They need to be blue. So I'm going to see if maybe there's an aftermarket. Sometimes you can get aftermarket decals so that it's white on blue instead of blue on white. Something I'm going to try to do. This little bump here is not disappearing. That's where the I'm just trying to feel for the imperfections that are too small to see. Okay, I think I got that okay then. I'm just going to rub the whole thing down with this 1000 grit sandpaper so that the surface texture is uniform. It's painted, there won't be spots that just look really different than everything else. I have been surprised in an unpleasant way over and over and over again how visible these variations become. Even with flat paint, even with flat primer and then flat paint, any kind of variation in the surface texture becomes really obvious. This is nice and smooth now. And of a uniform 1000 grit, use 1000 grit sandpaper quality. And then this is supposed to go on here like that. And it's supposed to turn. It binds a little bit. Probably going to put a little bit of like mineral oil or something on it, maybe. Because it's, you can't hear it. I can hear it. And it squeaks like that. And I'm not sure if I want to make it smaller. Maybe sand the inside of this a little bit. No, that has to be addressed later because this is supposed to turn. And it's going to turn in this direction. And if it's too tight, then it won't turn. But you can deal with the lubrication issue a little bit later. Do the chrome paint pretty soon. I guess I'll do this propeller. So there's just a raised area on each one, and since it's consistent from one to the other, I'm just going to act as though it's part of the construction, that it's supposed to be that way. Supposed to. And let me do the propellers first. The edges of the propellers are really messy. Do the blades. What's up? Oh, no. It's on the back of the propeller, but still, it shouldn't be there. I'll show it to you in just a second. I'm going to do the blades, the edges of the blades first, and then come back to this. So when things get pulled out of the mold, okay, sometimes little bits of plastic adhere, and I don't know if you can see it too much on camera, but like right here, there's some blobs, and they're on the back of the blade, but you can still, when the thing is built, you can still see the back of the blade, so those have to be sanded down. Just like the hub, the blades and the center, just like the spinner on the nose. These will all be sanded with the 1000 grit sandpaper because there's just a lot of sanding on the edges that needs to be done. And I'm using 400 grit to get it done. Otherwise, it would take a million years. And I don't have that much time. The edges aren't even smooth. Okay, well, sorry, I was just talking there for a bit, as I often do, and I'm doing things like this. Trying to, yeah. When I was talking about balsa wood models earlier, why did I start on that? Well, I started on that because so much work needs to be done to fix the plastic parts so that they look okay, so that they fit, so that they don't have molding seams, okay, so that gaps are filled in, that I'm wondering if it might not be better just to go back to that. Just go back to having a chunk of balsa wood and an approximate pattern of how it should be shaped, and maybe some scraps of sandpaper come with the kit, and then you just end up filing and sanding the balsa wood so that it looks kind of like the part that you're supposed to have for the plane, usually the plane or the boat. Those are the models. Yeah. This seems to be, at least with that, you know what you're doing and why. You're shaping the parts because they're not shaped, right? With this, it just seems to be, well, you're just fixing somebody else's problem. It might be kind of tempting to build one of those little kits that I've got that are stick and tissue. I've got two of them. One is the Wright Flyer, and the other is the Berlioz, which is a plane that came, 5 years later, but was very, very pretty. I could start with one and start like with the Wright Flyer, and then see how that goes. It might be an interesting change of pace from these plastic models. It might be a challenge because I have never built one of those. Despite my age, back in the day, that was still a model. That was still a common thing. Plastic models had really just been starting. Models were little bits of balsa wood and paper plans. And that's what models were. These plastic kits came out. And it's like, oh, you just slap it together, and now you got a plane or a boat. And when he was young, it looked like a plane or a boat for, mostly. So it just wasn't. This I didn't ever do this kind of stuff. It just wasn't a thing you did with the models. It's sanded off, but I'm not getting those little raised edges with the sandpaper. Hi, King Poverty. Thanks for joining in. I am working on the counter-rotating propellers, the Pogo vertical takeoff failure of a prototype. I mean, it was a success, really. It kind of worked. But it was not going to be, it was not going to go into production. And as is typical, the parts need a lot of prep work in order to be usable. And so that's what I'm doing, is cleaning up all sorts of flaws in the parts. And having kind of mediocre success with the painting today. Oh, and what would that be? What's your insane character idea? That's quite a combination. Okay, so would your DM and the other players even let you do that? I mean, why not, right? But really? Think you could get away with it? Oh, okay. Well, then you just need to float it out there and see what other people think about it. That would be that could be so the question then is the character, when you say you have an insane character idea, is the idea insane or is the character insane? In this case, I think the character would be. It'd be kind of fun to play, though. Yeah, that's the problem with some. So in our D&D game, we leveled up very, very slowly. I don't think it took us forever to get past level 2. We began to think that leveling up was a myth. But as characters level up, or as they gain, magical items and things, they do become kind of broken. And it becomes less fun, too, because the challenge is sometimes gone. Or the DM has to come up with things that are so challenging that they're just kind of absurd to begin with. So that doesn't want to disappear. Ah, okay. Just now you did. Okay, so you had the character type, but not the race until just now. I think this is to the point now where I can kind of shine it up. Plasmoid. Well, you might as well just go all out on the insanity. So how far are you going to go in terms of character development on this? You're going to put together like a backstory and some characteristics and things like that? Name it. Oh, I almost forgot. There's I'm just feeling it here. There's a real serious lumps that need to be sanded out on the back of this. Okay, that'll be fun to do. Yeah, maybe you can come back and talk about your character development. Yep. So speaking of that, I'm going to remind everybody that I'm going to be away for a week and a half. I'll not be streaming Friday. Okay, and then I'll be away the whole next week. So after today, the next time I'll be streaming will be the 17th. Okay, so I don't want you to forget about this. Don't forget about relaxing, filing, sanding, and sometimes painting with Dice and Dungeons. It's just that I'll be away for a week and a half, and I'll be gone after today and then coming back on the 17th. There we are. It's almost invisible now. Okay, finally. Just have to rub these down carefully with fine-grained sandpaper because otherwise it'll just all look scabby later. I'm doing this. I'm trying to also be very careful not to break the prop. I can see me snapping one of these off. I can imagine just doing that just because it would be the kind of thing that would happen. Getting to the edge here, just snapping the edge of it off. Now that I said it, I'll probably do it. It's like, why did I say I could do that? Why did I even think it was possible? No, that's not good. The edge of this blade has I think this is the one that had the other lumps on it. The edge of this blade has a big glob of excess plastic. Okay, so he wouldn't come in that way. But that early on in the game, a transformation would happen because of an event. That's an interesting backstory. I mean, an interesting character development sort of thing. That's pretty cool. Because it's always good to have an explanation for why things are the way they are, right? And in terms of gameplay, I agree. It's much cooler have that happen as part of gameplay and not just like you come into the game that way. I kind of like that idea. That's pretty neat. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So instead of, you don't have to tell a story. You don't have to tell a story to your party members or whatever later to explain what's going on. It would just happen. Exactly that. Cool. I had a character once in one game. It wasn't really a broken character, but it combined all sorts of weird stuff. It was a lot. I really enjoyed playing it. It was a dwarf ghost pirate bard. And I got to get in character, right? So I got to talk like a pirate the whole time. I got to do all sorts of R's and mateys and all of that sort of thing. It was great fun talking like a pirate during the whole game. And then my character had just become a ghost. Oh yeah, bad pirate jokes, bad ghost jokes. Was a bard, but was a spoken word bard because he couldn't sing. And pretty much only had like one song, which I stole from an old TV show. Like, sit right back and hear a tale, yarg. A tale of a fateful trip. Oh, me bardies. It was quite a trip. It was basically what I did, and it really annoyed everybody, is I did the Gilligan's Island theme as a spoken word pirate bard. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to recreate it here, but you can begin to imagine. And then everybody would make him shut up and stop, and then after a little while, he'd resume the tale. Exactly. See, that kind of thing. And not knowing I was a ghost at first, it was like, discovering and trying to find like ghost touch weapons and things that I actually could use. It all became part of the game then, was being able to actually outfit the pirate bard. So what's happening here? This is really quite annoying, is there's a ridge here where there shouldn't be. It's pretty clever. It's funny. Yeah, so that was my favorite character because of that. Although it turned out to be really useful. I mean, you don't you're a ghost, right? But I could like go through walls and be invisible. So the rest of the party was really, some of the characters were very powerful, but I could do the the reconnoitering. I could go out and investigate things without being detected, and sometimes do diversion because I could be invisible and then apparate. It was, anyway, it was just great fun. being an annoying ghost pirate bard. So this character, I know, it's just when you can turn the game, not into just like one encounter with goblins after the other, okay, but use the game to introduce and develop your characters. That's what makes it a lot of fun. We do that in our D&D show too, is that it's really, it's about role playing. And so we always work really hard at trying to stay in character, and to do metagaming or get out of character really pretty rarely. Just a lot of fun. Okay, this is getting to the point now where I can see, that I pretty much sanded if we had a before and after of this piece, you would see that the after is way better than the before. This was very poorly made. But now it's acceptable. But I'm going to take a break from prepping parts, because this is the rear propeller. There are two counter-rotating propellers. This one is in the back, is in even worse shape than the one in the front. I'm going to go back and put a second coat of chrome paint on these pieces. Paint's still good. Yes, it is. It might actually be even better, because the chrome paint didn't cover very well. Oh yeah, I need my head magnifiers, otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. So these things that look like furniture casters, and probably were the landing gear for this vertical takeoff and landing thing. But they really weren't landing gear. And they did serve exactly the same purpose as furniture casters. Because when the thing was landed, okay, when it was on the ground, it couldn't taxi in the usual way. It couldn't be driven. Its propellers couldn't drive it around. It had to just be pushed around like a big piece of furniture. And so I'm pretty sure that they ended up using off-the-shelf wheels like this. Okay, I did it again, except I did it like right away. I got my finger in the paint. So I was planning to paint the wheels today too, but it's getting close to the end of the stream, and that's when I usually start making mistakes and making a mess of things. So I think that's going to have to wait till I get back. Yeah, even though I've got almost an hour left. The wheels, you can kind of see them, are really small, and the boundary between the metal and between the silvery paint and the black paint has to be really precise. And I am really unlikely to be able to pull that off today. Just going to say, I just don't think I can do it. So I'm not going to make the failed attempt. So rather than messing something up and having to redo it all later, I'm going to wait until I get back from my trip and be able to start off with some relaxing painting caster wheels. These are looking okay. You know, the contrast in the darker shade versus the lighter shade is okay. I thought it would be too much, but it's not. It's coming out okay. But you know, I'm just recognizing my limitations, which seem to happen, you know, at the end of the stream, the last hour, the last 45 minutes, especially. Just doing things that require effective eye-hand coordination, detail stuff. This becomes a lot more difficult. The second coat on this is looking decent. Still have some visible flaws in them, but you know, viewed at a respectful distance and under the brilliant lighting, they'll look okay. But a lot will depend on how well I get the wheels painted, you know, at the boundary between the wheel and the caster housing hub. A lot will depend on how well that is done. And I can tell just the way I'm painting here now that I definitely need to wait. The other thing that needs to be painted flat black besides these little wheels is the very, very tips of the ladder. Tips on they're supposed to represent little rubber tips on the ladder. And that would also require precision of eye-hand coordination. I'm going to show that to you in just a moment. As soon as I avoid touching my finger in the paint again, I almost did it again. Hand cramp, nice. Okay, messy work surface. See what I mean? I should probably just stream for like 2 hours instead of 3, or at least 2.5, because I just start doing things like I set down a paintbrush and it starts to roll off, or I drop a piece, or just messiness. Try to get the paintbrush in the little protector and mess it up on the way. Okay, so there. What's going to happen next is I need to apologize to everybody, but I need to take a quick break. At some point, that just needs to happen, and it's happened now. I'm not going to put the break sign on or anything. I'll let you watch paint dry. I'll let you look at the propellers. Okay. And I will be back in just like a few minutes. Be real quick. Okay. Well, that's much better. Okay, so this is paint drying. I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to bring out this. This is the ladder. This actually came out pretty well. Okay. Oh, what's that though? Like I said, there's always something. So there's some sort of like little hair or string or something that got on. Whatever it is, it's gone now. So this is the ladder. And seriously, a pilot was supposed to climb all the way up to this little tiny platform up here and then climb into the cockpit of the plane. What I'm going to do with this is set on here on some sticky tack so it could be primed and painted, is I'm actually going to take that off of that and put it in the safety of hopefully the safety of a box. And then when I come back on the 17th, a week from Monday, I'm going to finish it. The finishing of it. Okay, you can see that the little bottoms here, little bottoms of the feet are not painted. That's fine because it would have had little rough feet on the bottom to keep it from slipping. And so these bits down here are going to be painted flat black. Okay, they'll just be painted flat black. And that painting is not happening today. It will happen at the same time that I paint the wheels on the casters for the landing gear. But I'm going to stick that in here. And it'll be out of the way and hopefully not smushed. And hopefully I'll remember it. Maybe I'll remember it. And then this is now just trash. Stick it over here where there's sort of trash. Okay. So I've got this propeller to go yet. I've got a little more than a half hour. And so I'm going to do this. And then if these parts are prepped well enough, they'll be ready to be primed. I probably won't prime them until I get back from my trip. Okay, because I've got way too much to do between now and when I leave to do that. But that will be something to do when I get back. And then I'll test fit everything again. And then they're primed and they're painted flat black. And then they're assembled. And the assembly of these propeller parts is totally independent of the rest of it. It's just stuck on at the end. It's like an afterthought. Oh yeah, we have to make some way to make this go. So we'll stick these propellers on. And I might need to fill this little gap. There's a gap right there where the plastic was poorly molded. And if I remember, and there's a little time, I'll stick some filler on that yet today. And then hopefully remember to sand it down before I prime it. And if not, then I'll sand off the primer and reprime it after I take care of that. Propeller is messier than the other one. Really, yeah. Just a lot of just excess bulges of plastic. Like that. Just pieces flopping around of excess plastic that oozed out between the two halves of the mold, or stuck to it after it came off of the mold, or as it was coming off. I tested this earlier today. I was really kind of surprised that it sort of works. I mean, not really well, but it sort of works. Is that these two propellers come together and there's an internal gearing system, a little plastic gearing system, so that when you turn one, the other one turns in the opposite direction. So they do actually rotate, and they counter rotate just like they would have. It's one of the I think the only really clever thing about the model is that they were able to, that it kind of works. And I say kind of because it is kind of. It doesn't work very well, but it did. And I'm hoping during assembly that I can keep it working. Okay, this is just going to take a lot of work. The edges of the propellers are really, really messy, where the plastic oozed out between the parts of the mold. But I think if I stay at it, I should be able to get it done in a half hour. And then I'll be able to say, once again, what did you do today? Well, I got hardly anything done, but I took a long time to do it. I actually want that to show up. You know, if we ever update the screens for this stream, you know, like the streaming time, it still says 10 till 2, and it's for a long time now, probably almost more, practically a whole year. It's been 10 until 1. Okay. So that needs to be updated. And we need to change it from relaxing painting, because it's hardly ever painting, to something else, you know, relaxing modeling and minifigs and stuff. Relaxing doing stuff with Dyson Dungeons. More generic. So we need to do that, but I want some upgrades. I want a subtitle. Okay. So it'd be relaxing doing stuff with Dyson Dungeons. And I wanted to say where hardly anything happens, but it takes a long time to do it. That is the characteristic of what I'm doing here. Now, I've been told that I can get like a miniature sander. I've actually looked into buying one. I'm not sure I will, though. A little miniature sander that would make this task of sanding down these flaws in the plastic go much, much faster. And I'm reluctant to do that because I'm not sure that I would be good at using the tool. And if it went any faster, then I would get more done, and then I couldn't say got hardly anything done, but I took a long time to do it. So yeah, if our Alexis, our DM, ever has time, and she never really does, to do upgrades to this stream, this is not not something that's really important for her. The game, the show, the D&D show, which you need to pay attention to. You need to watch it. Okay, go on YouTube, catch some Dyson Dungeons D&D show. Do that, please, because it's a really good show. We stay in character. Our characters are a lot of fun. Our DM is a great voice actor. She's really good at doing voices. Makes really interesting NPCs who are supposed to just show up like once and be kind of clever, but then end up being forced into being recurring characters because we all like them. Okay. So there's that. But if there's ever an opportunity to upgrade this stream, other than maybe getting a new camera person who keeps things on screen, or maybe I could get a writer. We need a writer to come up with things to talk about. I need to think about more job-killing things that happened in the past, like vacuum tubes and television antennas. I think muffler shops, they've kind of reimagined themselves, but mufflers and brakes needed to be replaced constantly, like every couple of years. They just didn't last, the materials, and so there were muffler brake shops just that did that constantly. You just go in, get a new muffler, a new tailpipe. It had to be done because they would rust out really fast. They used to just rust out really fast. Now they last practically forever, and people don't even think about replacing a muffler for the most part, ever, much less every year or two. In our first car, we ended up, we didn't have much money, so we'd replace the muffler with there were like 3 different qualities of mufflers, and the most expensive one was just a ripoff. You just knew that. It's like, why spend more? Well, because it has 2 little pipes that come out of it instead of 1. And you go, no one would think that this is a dual exhaust. That was a big deal. Dual exhausts. which were probably more cosmetic than anything, even though they were supposed to do something like reduce the back pressure on the engine so that it performed better. And maybe they did, but I think mainly it was just a way of adding an expensive option to a car to make it look cooler. So we would buy the middle quality because we didn't want to buy the cheapest muffler, because you knew that that was just setting yourself up to be buying another cheap muffler in 6 months. What was I talking about? I was talking about innovations that destroyed entire industries. Like there's still a small vacuum tube industry, but it's not like everything, televisions and radios and all had vacuum tubes, and computers. So that isn't a deal anymore. Television antennas, probably, I'm not talking about satellite dishes. I'm talking about those metal monstrosities that had chromed metal rods sticking out in different widths and lights all over the place. Okay, that industry got devastated when cable came through. Yeah, maybe I should start brainstorming. Oh, hi, Ellie. Thanks. I got the metal parts of the little casters done, and I'm saving the rest of it until when I get back a week from Monday, because it turns out that getting these propeller parts, getting them prepped is just taking a whole lot longer than I thought it would. They're really badly molded. It's, again, really bad. So what did you end up getting for dinner? I know you went out to get stuff. You went grocery shopping. And you're doing the cooking, I bet, because everybody else is sick. So what are you cooking for dinner? Just waiting to get a reply to the pressing question of the moment. Ah, okay. So she's well enough to cook. That's good news. See, here in the States, what you just said would be confusing, because for some reason, unlike in most of Europe, the salads come first. And I have to say that, having experienced, having been to Europe and eaten there, or been on a European cruise ship like the Queen Mary, which is sort of European. It's British. It used to be European, at least for a little while. Having the salad later just really makes sense. It sounds good, though. We had lasagna last week, made from scratch almost. Well, sometimes we've had actually made from scratch fresh pasta. Make that at home occasionally, not nearly as often as we'd like, but from time to time. Oh, okay. So how are your kids doing with the flu? Are they recovering? Are they coming along? Are they coming out of it okay? Hopefully they're well enough to eat. and enjoy the dinner that you guys are making. Well, I'm going to do a real quick recap here and just say that this stream is a spin-off from Dice and Dungeons, which is a Dungeons and Dragons show. And if you haven't, you should watch it. Tell everybody you know, people you don't know, strangers in the street. Let everybody on the planet know that it's a really, really cool show. It's just an amazing show. And that if they like D&D at all and want to see it done in a very entertaining way, that they should catch some episodes of our Dice and Dungeons show. And then this stream is kind of a sad little spin-off, low production quality, ring camera, just leftover parts pretty much, that serves the purpose of getting me out of everybody's hair 3 days a week from 10 until 1, what is now Eastern Standard Time, because we just fell back this last Sunday. And yeah, so our show is really good, so watch it. And then a reminder too, well, I hope he gets back in time for dinner. Oh, they're going off to Berlin. That should be, yeah, my son and daughter-in-law lived in Berlin for years. They just moved. We visited them several times. We visited Berlin when they were much younger, probably like 20 years ago, and just sort of fell in love with the city then. We even talked about buying a place in Berlin like 20 some years ago, which we should have done because the prices were, especially in the old East Berlin, were really amazingly affordable. Yeah, but we always enjoyed visiting. Oh my. Okay. Well, cake it is then. I guess that's okay. Yeah, it's going to go on it's going to go on for a long time. Well, enjoy the dinner anyway. It's bad that he'll miss it. Maybe there'll be leftovers. A little bit anyway. Should get a new piece of paper out to do this. Cake for dinner. There's a time when I probably would have done that too. Not because there was a meeting or anything, but because there was cake and I didn't feel like eating anything else. A whole week. So they they do the museums. I know the Pergamon is closed, but the other museums are cool. What else? What sorts of things do they do there during their trip? Because that's a long time. Maybe the Philharmonic, maybe, or something like that. Well, those are two different experiences. So I know you're not a fan of Copenhagen because of the, it's just crowded and very touristy. We were tourists in Copenhagen, so, it was okay being a tourist there because it's very touristy. And we did tourist things like Tivoli and a couple of museums and the harbor boat ride. Got to see the Royal Yacht. What do you think of Berlin, though? Of course it does, because it's a school trip. Yeah. What a great trip, though. Nice long visit, too. So there's plenty of time to get the sights in. Well, this is taking about as long as I feared it would take. How's your daughter's skating going, by the way? I know she has some new skates that are working really well. I'm very glad. I'm sure she's thankful for those. But I also know that she got bumped up like 2 classifications or 2 categories, which was a great compliment, but I hope it's going well for her. Yeah, it is crowded, just like Copenhagen. If you're used to and enjoy more rural quality of life, right? Big bustling cities are maybe not your favorite things. We enjoyed it because my son and daughter-in-law, they lived in a older East German, one of the East Berlin neighborhoods, and they were like a block and a half away from a weekly farmers market and flea market. There were just restaurants and things everywhere, just within walking distance with like 3 or 4 blocks. The grocery was 2 blocks away. The farmers market on Saturday was great because not only was there great produce, but there was also some really good food booths. You know, fresh pasta, mac and cheese, some sort of Hungarian dumplings. I forget what they're called, but they were really good. There's a beer garden, a really fun beer garden, and just 2.5 blocks away. Enjoy dinner, and I will see you a week from Monday. Hope everybody recovers quickly and that you're feeling well soon. But thanks for dropping in and chatting. See you in a week and a half. Well, again, the before and after of this would be telling because it's way better after than it was before. It came out all right. I didn't feel any obvious flaws. There's one little nick there. I am going to put a tiny drop of filler on that And try to remember to sand it down at some point. It doesn't show. This stuff dries nice and hard, but it shrinks a little bit, so I always have to put like an excess on so that I can sand it down instead of having a remaining residual divot. Okay. Guess I don't really need to bother cleaning these up at this point before I prime them. I'll get rid of all the dust. So I'm going to start packing up here. I'm going to put this ladder in here. And then these parts, I'm going to just flop around like that, I guess. Stick them in here. Just this reminds me that I've actually done what needed to be done to them. I'm going to keep them out of the way. I should put these in there too. The paint is dry enough yet or not. I don't really want to touch them. I guess what I'm going to do, no, I'm just going to cover it with a paper towel. Really? I knocked it over. I was trying to be careful, and I did the opposite of being careful. Okay, these are worthless now. Yeah, this is dirty. So, plastic dust everywhere, even though I was trying not to. Okay, well, here, this is what I've accomplished today. Is we got a couple coats of paint on these guys, but haven't finished them. I spent a lot of time sanding and filing these propeller bits, and the ladder is ready to be finished a week from Monday when I get back. So again, I'm going to start wrapping up here. I want to thank everybody for joining in. I will be back a week from Monday on the 17th. Between now and then, I will not be streaming, so you won't be seeing any of this or any progress being made. Are these giant? I'm going to just sort of prop these up in here so that they're not just, they don't get knocked around until they actually are dry. But at least, yeah, at least they're kind of put away. Cover this up. Yeah, that's what I got done today. I took the ladder off the sticky tack and didn't finish it. I got these painted, but not the part that really, the finishing part with the wheels. And I got these parts for the propeller almost ready for priming. They're almost ready for prime time. I make that joke all the time. It's not a joke anymore. It's just dumb. But they're almost ready for priming, and that will happen after I get back. So just to give you a preview, let me just keep looking at that until I'm done. Why not? Of what will happen a week from Monday is that I'll get the flat black paint out and paint the wheels on those bits. Okay. And I'll paint the little rubber, the simulation of the little rubber bits on the bottom of the ladder, you know, the rubber feet that keep it from sliding around. I'll go over the propeller parts again, test fit them again, make sure that they're okay and ready to go, and then I'll prime them and paint them black, and then probably like on Wednesday or Friday of that week I get back, maybe assemble them. And the other thing I'll be doing is once the black paint dries on these little wheels, is I'll be doing this, assembling these parts, the wings on either side, and the fuselage. The wheels go into the tips like that, and the whole thing clamps together, gets cemented shut, hopefully gets aligned. And then when the cement sets, then I'll be spending a lot of time sanding again as I make the seams, especially on the sides here, the large parts of the fuselage, make the seams disappear so that when it's painted, it looks okay. So on the 17th, when I get back, I'll be starting by painting the little wheels, and then probably touching up the paint, metallic paint, because I won't have them done perfectly, because, that's the way it is. But I do hope, then I need to assemble these. So probably even a higher priority than the propeller parts, okay, even a higher priority, is to get these casters done and these parts cemented together so that they can be prepped for painting. Yeah, I don't know how much work it's going to be getting the wings to fit to the fuselage. Usually they don't fit very well, so that could be a whole thing. We'll see. And then I'll pull depending on how it goes, I'll, work on the propeller and maybe even pull the pilot's seat out. That's going to take like 45 minutes of intense grinding and sanding to make that presentable at all. Yeah, so I'm gone. I'm not streaming Friday. I'll be gone until the 17th. And when I get back, I'll be finishing the little wheels, the little flat black bits on the wheels and the bottom of the ladders, and then assembling the wings and the fuselage. Okay, clamping those shut with clothespins and maybe rubber bands. Used to use rubber bands a lot when I was young to hold the parts, half of the fuselage together. So that's what's going to happen when I get back. Between now and then, watch our Dungeons and Dragons show. Dyson Dungeons is on YouTube, and you can also catch it as a podcast. It works that way too. And any support you can give us by becoming a follower or a subscriber or patron on patreon.com is extremely welcome. Yeah, that's it. I'm off for a week and a half. I'll be back on the 17th and be making some... I'll leave this up here instead of the box. Making some additional progress on this bizarre little plane, the Pogo. I don't know. Depending on how it goes, I might even be able to finish it before Christmas. We'll see. And then I'll start on something else. Thanks, everybody. I'll be signing off now. And excuse me. And I'll see you then.